Now for a glimpse of ag around the world, the global appetite for U.S. pork and meat were impressive last year. Pork exports even hitting records. But how much U.S. corn and soybeans were actually used for those exports last year? U.S. Meat Export Federation releasing those totals during Commodity Classic this week, providing us with a preview. U.S. meat exports soared to new heights last year, and a new study shows that also generated robust demand for U.S. corn and soybeans.
Well, world demand for protein has never been better.
U.S. Meat Export Federation releasing this new study this week, which shows 30% of the pork produced in the U.S. is exported today, and more than 14% of U.S. beef production is consumed outside the U.S. via exports. And when you dig a layer deeper, pork exports accounted for more than 100 million bushels of soybean demand last year. For corn, 525 million bushels were consumed by the beef and pork exported in 2024.
We send a lot of corn and soybeans out through U.S. beef and pork. And when you look at that, every hog that we export outside the United States, that's 10 bushels of corn. So the impact of a Dave Juday study, we're looking at 59 cents on a bushel of corn in 2024 on that impact, and then $1.46 on a bushel of soybeans. So it has significant impact.
Henner says the corn and soybean industries are critical in U.S. Meat Export Federation's efforts to grow global demand for U.S. meat, especially cuts that aren't consumed here at home.
When you think about what we send outside the United States, it's not the ribeye steaks and New York strips. It's the beef liver. It's the tripe on that animal. It's the pork tails, the feet, the snout. A lot of these good protein items are garnished and really welcome in different countries.
Even with the tit-for-tat tariff talk heating up this week, U.S. Meat Export Federation's president and CEO says he's still optimistic about meat exports in 2025.
We were on schedule for a review of USMCA anyway in 2026, there is an effort, I think, to move it up quicker, which might actually work to our advantage.
According to USMEF, total U.S. red meat exports in 2024 was $19.1 billion. Mexico, China, and Canada add up to about $8.4 billion of the total, which is about 40%. And Hallstrom telling Farm Journal during Commodity Classic this week that the impact from tariffs remain unknown as the situation is extremely fluid.
This is sort of the concern when you start putting bilateral, unilateral duties on countries that you are kind of outside the confines of the free trade agreement structure. But like I said, it's a very fluid situation. I do think the other thing that we have that's definitely in our favor is that demand for our products globally is record-breaking. I mean, it's as good as I've ever seen it in 40 plus years. I think that we have a very unique product. We got to kind of keep that in mind. Because that's a big leverage point.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump Thursday announcing he's delaying the tariffs on any goods from Mexico that fall under USMCA until April 2nd. Mexico was set to release its own list of products that it would hit with retaliatory tariffs on Sunday. We caught up with Krista Swanson, chief economist for National Corn Growers Association, during Commodity Classic this week. She told us about 40% of the U.S. corn exported goes to Mexico. And when you look at ethanol, more than 40% of the United States ethanol exports are actually shipped to Canada. And Swanson says with the potential tariffs now in place, the question is if Mexico can afford to retaliate.
That's the other key piece here when we think about a Mexico situation. Will they retaliate on corn because it's so important to, the consumers in their country, and it's such a big part of their, their diets and consumption. So, if we don't see the retaliatory tariffs, then I think that we could see that continue. If retaliatory tariffs go into place, I think it would hurt in some ways. Again, it's a commodity that they consume way more of than what they produce, so they're going to have to get it from somewhere. And there's definitely some concern to lose corn demand. How much do we lose? Kind of left to be seen, because it depends what happens with those shifting trade flows.
Swanson says the last big boost of corn demand came from the Phase 1 trade agreement with China. President Trump has touted supporting new trade initiatives and gaining better market access. If that happens, Swanson says that could create more and potentially new demand for U.S. corn. That's a glimpse of ag around the world. Well, what is the biggest question that AgriTalk host Chip Flory is getting at Commodity Classic this week? We're going to find out in Chip's Corner next.